Hello, boys and girls. A very good evening and welcome to this live session on reasoning ability for your SBI PO main exam, which is scheduled for the 4th of June. That is just 3 days away from now. I hope all of you are healthy and you are fully geared up to take the SBI PO mains exam and ready to succeed, right? This session has been brought to you by TalentSprint, right? Exclusive for the SBI PO mains exam preparation. We have already had sessions on descriptive paper, data analysis and interpretation, English language. And I think in this session, we'll be looking at how do you score more in the reasoning ability and computer aptitude section of this exam. And not just that, we will try and solve a few questions from the last year's paper, right? While it is difficult to, get bank exam question papers now, ever since the exam has gone online, but based on memory, there are various sources which have claim to have got the papers based on memory. So we'll choose some questions from those papers and solve it here, right? But before we get into that, let's just discuss about how your preparation is, how confident you are about taking this exam, and what are the challenges that you currently have. And then I think more importantly, what one needs to do in the next 3 or 4 days left for the exam so that you can maximize your chances of selection, all right? And for the benefit of those who have joined in this session for the first time, let me mention that there is this chat box available right beside your video screen. So if you have any queries or any questions to be asked, please feel free to post it there. I'll be more than glad to answer your questions, right? So I think many of you have joined the chat already. I see Navneeta Roy, Aranya Das, Pinky Chauhan, then we have Nagasarika. So good evening, guys. Glad to see you all here. We also have Sarang, Archana, Pavan Kumar, Suajit Chakraborty, Shiv Mishra. Right. So how's your preparation? Welcome to the session at the outset. I'm sure you've been doing well since the last week. We met last week, if you remember, right? Same time, Wednesday 6 p.m. is what is when we meet for a free session on the upcoming exams. Yeah, many others have joined. Anisha, Priya, Spandana, Sai Kishore, Vineet Singh. And I'm sure there are a lot of others who are like watching the live stream and start interacting with us now, right? Dinesh Kumar and Gamer Geek has also joined. So guys, I think assuming that all of you have cleared the SBI PO preliminary examination, I think you've done a great job. Congratulations for that success and all the best for your main exam, which is due in 4 days, right? I mean, the D-Day is getting closer, and I'm sure it is adding to your excitement and nervousness, right? See, it's natural to be a little nervous before the exam, and this is like highly competitive exam, right? Especially the SBI PO recruitment. But the good part is you have already cleared the preliminary examination, so that should give you a lot of confidence because it is being speculated that about 25 lakh to 30 lakh people would have appeared for the preliminary examination. And you have, beaten that cutthroat competition and become a part of this 46,000, 50,000 students who will appear for the main examination on 4th of June, right? So I think that's a good job done by you, and you would deserve to be appreciated for that. But then it should not get into your head because the next round is also equally important. While it will not be competitive in terms of the number of candidates who will take up the main exam. It is about 46,000 people who would appear for this exam. But it will be competitive in terms of the quality of people who will take this next round, right? Because all the 46,000 people have cleared the preliminary examination. So they have already proven themselves, right, by doing what you have also done, right? So you should leave no stone unturned, right? I'm sure you have done enough preparation in the last 3-4 weeks, ever since your preliminary examination results were declared, and focused on the important areas pertinent to the main examination so that you boost your chances of selection. So all I'm trying to say is be confident, right? Don't get too nervous. Don't feel too nervous. It's obvious. Some nervousness is obvious, but don't let that convert to a stage of panic. And it is very important that you do the right things in the next 3 or 4 days, right? Not just in terms of preparation and practice, but also in terms of the other things that you do, the way you behave, so that you can keep yourselves calm and composed during your examination, right? So we'll discuss more about it, but let me hear from you guys about your preparation, right? How is it going? I've seen a couple of you mentioning that it is good, right? It's going fine. Now, you know that in the SBI PO main examination, there will be 4 sections, right? Number 1 is reasoning ability and computer aptitude. Then we will have English language. Then we have general awareness and banking awareness, and data analysis and interpretation in the objective part. So these are the 4 sections. Then there's also a descriptive paper attached with it, right? The main examination will be followed by a descriptive paper where you will have to write write an essay and a letter online, right? You have to type in your answer using a keyboard. So these are the 2 components in the next round, and I'm sure all of you have prepared enough for both the parts of the phase 2, right? So where is the challenge that you have now? I can see most of you mentioned that the preparation is fine, it's going nice. Like Vineet Singh says, his preparation is nice and he hopes to clear this exam, right? Abhishek Kumar has asked me for the strategy. I think, well, in terms of preparation strategy, there's nothing that I have to discuss now, because you only have 2-3 days left for the exam. But what we can discuss is about the exam strategy, what you need to do in that 3 hours and 30 minutes of time that you have for the examination. Aranya Das has mentioned that it's going well and good, but seriously worried about the general awareness section. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of you will be concerned about general awareness or banking awareness, because quantitative aptitude, reasoning ability, and English language has already been tested in the preliminary examination itself. So you are thorough with the concepts. I mean, the fact that you have cleared the preliminary examination shows that you are good in those areas. What will be new in the main exam is the general awareness and the banking awareness part, right? Now, the serious concern that I have is, why do people worry about preparing for this section? Because general awareness or current affairs is something which should be a part of your daily routine, right? I mean, you should not be preparing for current affairs for SBI PO main examination. I think that is where most of us fail, or we are setting ourselves up for failure, right? See, you are going to appear for the main examination, or maybe some of you are, planning to appear for the other exams that are coming up in the near future, right? And every exam will have current affairs as an important component. So what I'm trying to, tell here is that don't prepare for the exam. Make reading newspaper as a daily routine, right? Irrespective of whether you will take the exam or not, whether you want to get a bank job or not. Because it's good to be aware of what is happening around you, right, in your country and around the world, right? You must be, you must have that kind of content, right? So that you can also demonstrate that during your interview. You know that after the phase 2 is cleared, you will have to appear for an interview. Again, the worry will be, yes, I've cleared the main examination, but now I have to prepare for interview, because they may ask me questions on general awareness. Well, that's not something that you will really prepare for, right? So while it's right that you will be worried about general awareness, don't panic now. And it's over. Your preparation is already over. You can't really do much in the next 3 days. Or I don't have a shortcut which can help you score well in this section, right? But keep in mind that after your main examination, or even from tomorrow, start reading newspapers, right? Religiously. Don't just do it for the sake of examination, but even otherwise, because that's the easiest way to deal with this section, right? I mean, you should not be preparing for it. You should do it on a daily basis. It is like quantitative aptitude, where I say whether you prepare on quantitative aptitude or not, whether you solve questions from a particular topic or not. The one thing that bank exam aspirants or SSC exam aspirants have to do on a daily basis is spend about 30 minutes on calculations. Very, very important, right? I mean, if you are not strong in your calculations, if you're not sharp enough to do your calculations mentally, then you're setting yourselves up for failure, right? That is the key in my view. I mean, from my experience of teaching over so many years and looking at people who have qualified and people who have not qualified, one thing that has come out very clearly is that it's not the shortcut format that actually helps you score more, right? It adds to your speed, no doubt, but what is more important is the way you do your calculations when it comes to quantitative aptitude or data analysis and interpretation for that matter. So like quantitative aptitude has to do, is directly correlated with your calculation ability, I think general awareness is directly correlated with your reading habits, right? You have to read newspapers every day. And not one, but 2 newspapers every day, right? One should be a general newspaper and the other one has to be a business newspaper, because that's where you get this knowledge of concepts related to banking, right? And concepts related to business and economy, right? So don't worry much about it. I think you've done enough in the last couple of months, but make sure that you leave it. Make sure that you leave no stone unturned after this, right? Shivam Mishra says we are doing good. I think Shravani has also mentioned that she has learned a lot of techniques and it is helping her. What is the other concerns? Subhajit Chakraborty has mentioned how should we approach reasoning? Well, I think that's what will be our focus today, right? Archana has asked a question: कि GA कब तक का करे? Well, GA कब तक का करे is actually I think more to do with current affairs. कि current affairs, कितने महीने के current affairs से कितने months के current affairs हमें prepare करने चाहिए. So I think जितना मैंने experts से सुना है, experts को कहते हुए सुना है, at least last 6 months के जो important affairs हैं उनके बारे में आपको पता होना चाहिए, right? So again the problem Archana is कि अभी आप कुछ नहीं कर पाओगे, मतलब last 3-4 days में हम कुछ नहीं कर सकते हैं. Just make sure कि जो भी last 1 month में हुआ at least उसे brush up कर ले. But otherwise, yeah, the point is कि 6 months के current affairs minimum आपको, I mean you should be fully updated, right? आप updated होने चाहिए current affairs. Anisha has asked a question: what should be the strategy for reasoning? Yeah, I think we will get into that detail. Let me just look at all the questions first. Please provide detailed strategy for quant for the preliminary exam plus the mains exam. This has come from Aparna Goyal. But I think our focus today, Aparna, will be on reasoning, right? More on reasoning than quantitative aptitude. But we have done sessions on quantitative aptitude in the past, right? I would suggest you to go to our YouTube channel and look for those videos, right? Nithya has mentioned that please arrange a session for NICL AO prelims exam where we will I take that feedback, try and accommodate that in the upcoming live sessions. Yeah, Pawan Kumar has also mentioned last 6 months. So I think किसी ने पूछा था ना कि current affairs कितने महीनों का करना चाहिए last 6 months. Anything else? Is there any coaching center in Visakhapatnam? Well, Visakhapatnam में वैसे तो काफी coaching centers होंगे, लेकिन हमारा कोई coaching center नहीं है, right? Ours is a online program. You can learn from wherever you are. Okay, so I think I don't see any more questions specific to the SBI PO mains exam here, so I can move into discussing about the reasoning ability section. Now, we have already done one session on preparation strategy for the mains exam, where we have discussed in detail about the different sections that we have, the number of questions that we get from each of these sections, etc. But let me quickly revisit that in a couple of minutes, right? I'm sure all of you know this already, but let's just quickly look at what are the different areas that will be tested on, right? So, like I said, general awareness, economy, banking, etc. We'll have 40 questions, 40 marks, and 35 minutes of time. English language, there will be 35 questions, carries a weightage of 40 marks. We'll be given 40 minutes of time. Reasoning and computer aptitude, which will be the focus in today's session, will have 45 questions in it, carries a weightage of 60 marks. Now, this is important. 45 questions and 60 marks. So it's like 1.33 marks per question on an average. And you will be given 60 minutes of time, right? 60 minutes of time. Then the next section we have is data analysis and interpretation, right? Which will have 35 questions. Again, 60 marks is the weightage, and you'll be given 45 minutes of time. And the last part is the descriptive paper, which will be which will have only 2 questions, right? One is a essay writing, and another is a letter writing part of it. And weightage is 50 marks, 30 minutes of time. So overall, this is the scheme of examination. It is there in the notification, so you don't really have to worry about that. So total, we have got like 155 questions in the objective paper with a weightage of 200 marks, and the total time that we have is 3 hours. And then descriptive paper has got 2 questions with 50 marks weightage and 30 minutes of time. Now, what is important to be noted here is, I've mentioned this multiple times in the past, but I would like to repeat myself that you don't really have to worry about time management when it comes to the SBI PO main examination, or for that matter, even the IBPS PO main exam. Why is it so? You know that since last year, we have got this sectional time limit which has been introduced, right? So each section will have its own time limit. Like reasoning section will be for 60 minutes of time. Now, whether you want 40 minutes or 80 minutes, they don't care. You will be given 60 minutes. Do whatever you can in those 60 minutes. In these 60 minutes, you cannot jump into any other section, right? Even if you're like, let's say, finished in half an hour of time, you just have to sit idle for the other half an hour, right? So, and this in my view is a good news. I mean, you don't really have to worry about how do you divide your time across different sections, right? Earlier days, 2 years ago, one big question that everybody had was, how should I divide my 3 hours of time across different sections? And there is no standard way of splitting your time, right? It depends on your own strengths and weaknesses. So we used to, have some strategy on that, but I think now it's not needed because each section has its own time. So that problem is solved. The other problem that has got solved is the sequence in which you have to attempt the sections, right? Earlier, when there was a composite time given for all the sections for the entire paper, the question was, should I start with reasoning or aptitude or English language or general awareness? Now, this again doesn't have a standard answer, right? It depends on the person who's taking the exam, right? It depends on your strengths and weaknesses. But now it is SBI who will decide the sequence in which the sections will be presented. So I think both these questions are not valid anymore, right? We don't have to worry about the time limit. Time allocation across different sections, and we don't have to worry about the sequence in which you will attend the sections. So two things are always solved. Now, what we need to actually focus on is make sure that you attempt all the questions in whatever time is given to you, right? Now, I would like to throw some light on this word attempt that I've mentioned, right? When I say attempt, I don't mean that you have to solve all the questions. Like here, if you see, overall we have got how many questions? 155 questions in these 4 sections, right? So when I say attempt all the 155 questions, I'm not saying solve all the 155 questions. All I'm saying is don't step out of the examination hall and say that I did not even read the last 10 questions in reasoning, or last 8 questions in aptitude, or last 15 questions in English language, or maybe last 10, 12 questions in general awareness. That is the worst thing that one can go through, right? I mean, I think your success is when you step out of the examination hall and say, I have read all the 155 questions. I have answered only 100, that's a different story. I have answered only 80, is different. I have answered 120, is fine. I have answered 140, is fine. But don't step out of the examination hall, and say that, boss, I did not even read the full paper. Which means you have not spent your time efficiently, right? So, I mean, like for example, if you look at reasoning ability section, right? I think time management as such is not a problem in this exam. You have got 45 questions in reasoning and 60 minutes of time. So, as against 36 seconds per question, now we have 80 seconds per question. So we will have enough time to attempt all the questions there. But even otherwise, you have to be careful. Choose your questions wisely. I think this is very, very important when it comes to the reasoning ability section, right? Choose your questions wisely. You are not there to hit every ball. You are there to make sure that you play till the last ball. And for that to happen, you may have to leave some balls. You may have to just skip some balls. Okay. So when you are solving this reasoning ability section, I will solve question number 1, question number 2, question number 3. And then I find that question number 4 to question number 8 is from a complex arrangement. I'll just skip and move to the next one. The best way to solve a puzzle or a complex arrangement in these competitive exams is not to solve them. Just skip and move to the next one. Solve the 9th one now, 10th one, 11th one, 12th one. And then you find a complex arrangement, just skip and go to the next one. Right? Keep choosing your questions rightly. Solve the easier ones first. Now, I'm not saying that you have to skip these questions for good. No. You have enough time. You have 60 minutes of time left. But even then, solve the other independent questions first. Right? Why am I saying so? Because puzzles and complex arrangements do not have a definite solution. Right? There is no step-by-step process that can be followed to arrive at the answer. You don't know how complex the questions unless you try it. And even one trial would take about 4 or 5 minutes of your time, right? And you can't be spending your time in just trying out something in the examination, right? That is highly risky and not a very good use of your time. So it's very, very important that you choose your questions wisely overall in the exam, especially when it comes to reasoning ability section. So if there are 45 questions, make sure that you have answered all the other topics first, like questions from coding and decoding, questions from coded inequalities, questions from machine input output, questions from syllogisms, questions from, let's say, blood relations, questions from directions, questions on decision making, questions on critical reasoning, right? Questions on logical series. Because all these questions on data sufficiency, all these topics have a method which can be followed to arrive at the answer, except puzzles. I mean, there's no method. You try it. You try. You may get or may not get the answer. And there will be multiple possibilities, right? Usually it so happens that if the question is complex, you may have to start with 4 possibilities. And towards the end, you will figure out that, okay, 1, 2, and 4 are wrong. Possibility 3 is actually the one which satisfies all the conditions. Now, trying out all this may take a little longer, right? So you can't be taking that risk in the examination, right? So I think simple strategy for reasoning ability section is to solve the independent questions first. By independent questions, I mean not those 5 marks questions, right? Independent questions like coded inequalities, coding and decoding, blood relations, directions, etc. Solve these questions first, where we have a definite method, and then come back to these puzzles. You have 60 minutes. I'm not saying that you'll skip it forward, right? You have 60 minutes. Come back to the puzzles. Now, even after solving all the questions, there will be a case where like 4 puzzles have been asked. Now, which one should I try? You have to take your own decision, right? I mean, this is something which cannot be strategized now. You look at the questions, you look at all the 4 puzzles, see the one which looks to be easy, right? Again, it can be deceiving sometimes, right? I mean, while it looks to be easy, appears to be easy, when you start solving it, you find that it's really tricky. Something which looks to be very, very complicated, lengthy passage, lengthy puzzle, actually is a very simple one. Right? It happens. So you have to take a decision, right? Look at the number of variables that are involved. You know that when you're solving questions and puzzles, it can be on 2 variables or 3 variables or 4 variables, right? Like for example, you have to arrange 8 persons on 8 different floors of a building, find out which is the favorite color of each of these persons, find out which company they work for, find out which country they belong to, and other parameters associated with them. So each parameter is like a variable, right? So lesser the number of variables, lesser the complexity, generally, right? So you got to read the first few lines, understand and decide yourself as to which one would you like to try, right? And then give it a try. I mean, again, I would say there's no guarantee that you will be able to crack it, but then you just have to take a chance. So answer all the non-risky questions first, and then attempt the riskier ones at the end of your 60 minutes of time. I mean, in the reasoning ability section. It's very, very important. If you do not stick to this, you are calling troubles for yourself, right? Just because I have 60 minutes, I'll start with a puzzle. No, don't do that. 2 reasons. One, like I mentioned, you may not get the answer for that puzzle. And second problem is, not getting the answer is fine. I mean, you know that you may not be able to solve all the puzzles, right? I mean, even if I have to take this exam, let me tell you, I'll skip the puzzles. Just because I've solved maybe some 300 puzzles so far doesn't mean that I can solve every puzzle. It depends. I mean, it may take half an hour sometimes. It may take 2 days sometimes, right? I mean, I have a couple of puzzles with me which I've not been able to solve for months together now, right? I mean, I'm still finding out the clue there, which is holding me from completing it. So the point is, you don't have to kind of prove yourself by solving the puzzle. Nobody's going to give you extra marks for that. Of course, questions of puzzles may carry extra weightage because we have 45 questions with 60 marks weightage here. So some questions will be for 2 marks, but don't get into that trap. I think don't try to solve questions which have got 2 marks of weightage first. Solve the easier ones first. Whether it's for 1 mark or 2 marks, solve the easier ones first, and then go for puzzles. Are you able to follow? So very, very important that you stick to this. Otherwise, it can get difficult. So just because I have 60 minutes, I'll start with the puzzle. Okay, I was mentioning about the 2 problems, right? So first problem is you may not get the answer. Second problem that we have is it can get frustrating, right? I mean, you have tried puzzle with full of confidence, right? You thought you will be able to close it. You have spent about 8-9 minutes there, and eventually you realize that, okay, boss, this was complex. It's like angur khatte hain, ye nahi ho raha hai humse. Let's leave it. Now what happens is you have spent 9 minutes, and what did you convert those 9 minutes to? 0 marks. You've wasted your 9 minutes, and that will add to your panic. Okay, boss, only 51 minutes left now, and I have not even solved a single question. Right? It is always easy, like they say, right? What do batsmen do when they go out to play cricket? Right? They try to set themselves up first, right? They try to play calmly initially, and then once they are set, they take chances of hitting boundaries. Right? Of course, like I always say, Virender Sehwag is a different case, but we don't try to be Virender Sehwag in the examination, right? Like they say, well, most of the batsmen set themselves up and then hit a boundary. Sehwag comes, hits a boundary, and then he's set, right? But we don't do that. While that's a good quality, we don't do that or try that in the examination. So don't start with puzzle. Okay? Solve the lesser, riskier ones first, easier ones first. It builds confidence, right? You feel good about it when you solve a question, when you get an answer, and then take a chance. So I think that's the only strategy I have. I mean, I don't have to discuss much on content. We have had enough sessions on various types of questions and reasoning. I'll try and take up maybe 2 or 3 more questions in the session. Okay? But the idea is to get this right in your head, that you are there to solve maximum questions in that limited time available. And for that to happen, you should first start with the easy ones. All right. So I hope this point is clear to you. And you know, this strategy is applicable not only for reasoning but also for the other sections. I mean, let's say data analysis and interpretation. Most of the questions will be from line graph, bar graphs, pie charts, tables. You'll have questions on data sufficiency, set theory, caselets, all these things, right? Choose a one which you think are easy, right? If you think that this question is really complex, leave it aside, solve the easier ones first, and then come back. We have enough time to attempt all the questions, no doubt about it. But start with positive, energy, right? And start with something that you can solve, and then move on to the complex ones, right? And same is applicable for the other sections as well. I mean, not really when it comes to general awareness. There you either know the answer or you don't know the answer, right? There's nothing that has to be simplified, right? There's no formula that can give you the answer, right? I mean, like for example, what is repo rate? You either know it or you don't know it. You cannot apply formula or some method or some step-by-step process to get it. So general awareness and banking awareness, and to a large extent English is a different case altogether. But reasoning and data analysis, play it safely. Okay. So I think that's the key and the only important point about reasoning ability section that I wanted to share with all of you. I'm sure the students who have enrolled for TalentSprint program would know about it already, right? And even you guys must be aware because you've been attending our sessions, weekly free sessions, every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Now, what I'll do is, I actually, like I said, don't want to discuss much on content here. We are just 3 days away from the exam, and doing more on content may only add to nervousness. I mean, let's say if the question that I present here, if you are not able to solve, you feel a little nervous, right? I'm not able to solve this question while others are getting the answer. So that is the reason I avoid doing more of content when we are close to the exam. But let's solve maybe 1 or 2 questions and then come back and discuss about the other important things that you need to do in the next 3 or 4 days left for your examination. Okay, so what I'll do now is share my screen with you, which has got some questions. I think I've chosen questions on data sufficiency. I'll give you some time to try this out, then discuss the solution, and after which we will discuss a little more about what you need to do in the next 3 days, right? I think we are on 31st of May today, last day of the month. So first, second, and third, 3 more days to go. Okay, so we'll discuss that, but let's take up some questions before we do. So sharing my screen now, and here we go. Okay, let me just pull out my pen, without which I'll not be able to write anything. Yeah. Okay, so here's the first question. Now this is from data sufficiency, like you can see, right? It says, each of the questions below consists of a question and 2 statements numbered 1 and 2 given below it. You have to decide whether the data provided in the statements are sufficient to answer the question. So here you can see that there is this data. 10 persons are sitting in 2 parallel rows containing 5 persons each in such a way that there is an equal distance between adjacent persons. So there's some data which is like the question part. Then we have got 2 statements. Statement 1 here and statement 2. Followed by 5 options. Option 1 says, your answer will be option 1 if only if statement either 1 or 2 is sufficient to answer the question. Answer will be option 2 if statement 2 by itself is sufficient to answer the question, but statement 1 alone is not sufficient to answer the question. Option 3, if both 1 and 2 taken together are not sufficient to answer the question. Your answer will be option 4 if 1 is sufficient to answer the question, but 2 by itself is not sufficient. And option 5, if both 1 and 2 together can help us arrive at an answer. So typical 5 options given along with data sufficiency question. So I'll leave you with this for maybe a minute or a little more than that. Try this out and then we'll discuss the solution. Okay? First of all, if you're able to see the live stream without any difficulty, the question has been shared already. While it is occupied too much of space on the screen, but I'm sure you're able to read it. If there's any problem with the picture quality there, remember that there's this settings button on the bottom right of your video screen. You can use that to adjust the picture resolution, right? Try to optimize it based on your bandwidth. So option 4, I think Vinay is the first one to respond. He says it should be 4. It says if statement 1 alone is sufficient to answer the question, but statement 2 by itself is not sufficient to answer the question. So I think Vinay has got some answer there. I'll wait for a few more responses before we look at the solution. Okay, we have Ankush Dhiman here. He says, I was the part of this online classes last year, which helped me a lot in my final selection as probationary officer in SBI. And he's thankful about that. So Ankush, I think I'm really glad to see you here again. I think congratulations, first of all, for getting selected as a probationary officer in SBI last year itself. I'm surprised as to what are you doing again, preparing for SBI PO mains exam. But good to see you succeed and get this job. Ankush, it would be great if you can share your insights with the fellow students that we have in the chat here. I'm sure they would like to hear from you. Right, so why don't you give some tips? Okay, Ankush says I'm preparing for RBI Grade B Phase 1 examination. Good to see your dedication. He's already got a PO job in SBI and now he wants to move to RBI as a Grade B officer. Okay, the gamer geek that we have has got the answer option 1. Got the answer option 4. 1 is sufficient, and so has Pramod More. Statement 1 is sufficient. So only 3 of you have responded. So it looks like you guys are taking a little too much time than what is required, but I would wait. I would wait for a few more responses. Vishnu Priya says, could you explain about sufficiency questions? I'll do that, Vishnu Priya. Let us hear for a few more responses and then we'll discuss this. Got it? Pawan Kumar. Okay, Pawan Kumar is the next one. He also has got only 1 is sufficient. And so has Dinesh. Okay, I think time is up. I've given enough time, more than a minute already. I want others to tell me what are they doing, right? Are they like not able to crack this, got stuck, or getting some other answer? What is it? I think those who have been able to solve have responded, and I think all of you have got option 4, right? Everybody says it is statement 1 alone that is sufficient, but what is it with others? You can just say that I'm still solving it, right? I mean, I would like to hear it out. Are you still trying it out? You have given up already, you're not able to crack it, but what's happening? Praveen Maheshwari has also mentioned 1 is sufficient. First is sufficient. Yeah. So what's happening, guys? You've got stuck, or you're still trying it out? Can we discuss the solution now? Okay, looks like Ani has just joined 1 second ago, but Ani, I think time is up. Time is up now. Let's discuss the solution, right? We've given you enough time. Let's look at the solution now. Let's see what it says. Each of the questions below consists of a question and two statements, numbered 1 and 2, given below it. You have to decide whether the data provided in the statements are sufficient to answer the question. Right? I'm sure you know about data sufficiency, right? A question is given followed by two statements. Our job is to find out if we can solve the question using the data given in the two statements, or which of these statements will be sufficient enough for us to crack the given question. Remember, he's not asking us to get the answer. All he's asking us to find out is if we can get the answer using the two statements, right? Now look at the question. It says 10 persons are sitting in two parallel rows containing 5 persons each in such a way that there is an equal distance between adjacent persons. In the first row, P, Q, R, S, and T are seated and all of them are facing south. In the second row, A, B, C, D, and E are seated and all of them are facing north. Therefore, in the given seating arrangement, each member seated in a row faces another member of the other row. Who amongst the following are sitting exactly in the middle of the row? Who amongst the following are sitting exactly in the middle of the row? Right? And this is followed by two statements like he has mentioned. So what do we understand with the data given here? Point number 1 is that in the first row, we have got these persons, P, Q, R, S, and T, and all of them are facing south. See, the directions are important here, right? Linear arrangement or circular arrangement, direction is important. In the second row, we have got A, B, C, D, and E, 5 persons again, and all of them are facing north. So that's like a typical 2-row linear arrangement, right? 5 persons in one row, 5 persons in the other row. So it's like this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 positions. And we have got P, Q, R, S, T here. All of them are facing south. Then in the second row, we have A, B, C, D, E, F, right? The 5 persons are going to be A, B, C, D, E. A, B, C, D, and these guys would face north, right? These guys would face north. So 5 persons facing south and 5 facing north. So each person is facing one person in the other, right? Now look at the question part, right? What is the actual question? Who amongst the following are sitting exactly in the middle of the row? Who amongst the following are sitting exactly in the middle of the row, right? So basically the requirement is who is seated in these two positions, right? This is the middle of the row, right? Seat number 3. So seat number 3 of the first row and seat number 3 of the second row. Now even before we look at the statements, let us understand a little bit about these directions here. See, what does it mean when you say persons are facing north? Why is it important? Or how is it going to play a role in our solution? Understand, the left and right of a person is very important. When you are doing a linear arrangement, you got to know what is left and what is right for the person. So when a person is facing north, the left of the person should be taken towards our left on paper, right? And right of the person should be taken towards our right on paper, right? So left and right are like our left and right on paper. However, when the person is facing south, like in the first row here, P, Q, R, S, and T, for these 5 guys, when he's talking about left, we'll move in this direction. Left for these guys should be taken towards our right on paper, and right for this guys should be taken towards our left on paper. But for the bottom row guys, right is towards our right. You understand? And left is towards our left. So this is very, very important, right? When you are facing north, left is left, right is right. When you are facing south, left should be taken towards right and right has to be taken towards left. So that's the understanding. Now look at the data. Very, very important to note that when you're solving questions from data sufficiency, you have to first check the statements independently. Meaning, I will first check statement 1 alone and see if I can get the answer. Then I will check statement 2 alone and see if I get the answer. And based on the results of these 2 steps, I will go for a combination. You're able to follow? So if I have to give you the step-by-step process there, let me just quickly explain this to you, right? What is the first step? Check statement 1 alone, right? Step number 1. Step number 1 is check statement 1 alone. Now, when I say statement 1 alone, you will not be considering the data given in statement 2. Now, there are 2 possibilities. You may get the answer, may not get the answer, right? May get the answer, may not get the answer. I'll just do one thing. Let me create some space so that I can explain the complete flow, right? What is the step 1? Check statement 1 alone. There are 2 possibilities. It may give you the answer, may not give you the answer. Then step 2 is check statement 2 alone. Now this step 2 is important. I'll tell you why step 2 is important. While it is similar as step 1, most of the students get stuck here. What happens is, having read statement 1 already, you have some data in your mind, like whatever is given in statement 1, that data is there in our mind. Now what happens is, when you're trying to verify statement 2, you are supposed to, you are not supposed to use the data given in statement 1. But, usually what happens is, because you have already read the data, you think that, okay, that data is also available to me. You're getting me? So that should not be done, right? That's where most of the people go wrong. When you're checking statement 2, forget about what is given in statement 1. You should forget about what is given in statement 1. Only take the data given in statement 2 and see if you're able to crack it. You may get the answer, may not get the answer. Right? Then what is step 3? Now, step 3 depends on the results here. So there are different possibilities, right? Like, for example, you may get the answer using statement 1 alone and may not get the answer using statement 2 alone. So what will we say? 1 alone is sufficient. Similarly, you may get the answer using statement 2 alone, but not using statement 1 alone. So we'll say only 2 alone is sufficient. The third possibility is 1 alone may give you the answer, 2 alone may also give you the answer. Then you will say either statements can be used, either of the statements can be used, either 1 alone or 2 alone can be used. These are the 3 possibilities. The fourth possibility is 1 doesn't give you the answer and 2 also doesn't give you the answer. You cannot get the answer using 1 and cannot get the answer using 2. Only in such cases you will go for step 3. What is step 3? Combine statement 1 and 2. Combine statement 1 and statement 2. You have to go for the combination. And when you go for the combination, again there are 2 possibilities. You may get the answer, may not get the answer. If you get the answer using the combination of the 2 statements, then you will say 1 and 2 together are sufficient to get the answer, right? If you don't get the answer, then you will say even by using statements 1 and 2, you will not be able to crack this question. So these are the 5 possibilities. You can get the answer using statement 1 alone, right? So this is tick and this is cross. Second possibility is you may get the answer using statement 2 alone. So this is cross and this is tick. Third possibility is you may get the answer using either of the statements. So both are tick and tick. Fourth possibility is both are cross and cross. But when there is a fourth possibility, both of them are not giving you the answer independently, you go for combination. And that combination will result in 2 possibilities. You may get the answer using the combination, may not get the answer using the combination. If you have understood this process clearly, data sufficiency is done. There's nothing left there, right? There's nothing left there. So based on this, let us now solve the given question. Okay. I think we may not be able to solve more than one question, but like I said, the idea is not to discuss concepts or content today. The idea is to strategize your SBI PO mains exam. Okay. So let's look at statement 1 alone. Now I'm doing step 1, right? Just look at statement 1 alone. What does it say? D sits third to the left of A. D sits third to the left of A. Now understand, I'm looking at statement 1, right? So let me look at the cases of statement 1, right? D sits third to the left of A. We know that both D and A are in the bottom row, meaning both of them are facing north. If they are facing north, left is left and right is right. Now D sits third to the left of A. D sits third to the left of A. See, there are 2 possibilities. For example, let's assume A comes here. If A comes here, where would D come? D sits third to the left of A. So first, second, third, D would come here. That's one possibility, right? A is here, D is here, third to the left of A. The other possibility is A is in this position, let's say A dash, and I'm taking it as A dash. The other possibility. Then where would D come? D is third to the left of A, or D is third to the left of A dash. So third to the left of A dash. First, second, and third, D would come here. So D A is one combination, D dash A dash is the other combination. These are the 2 possibilities. Is there any other way of putting D and A? No. Like if you try to put A in the third position, middle position, what happens? D will come here in this place, which does not exist at all. So these are the 2 possibilities. D sits third to the left. Now we have to consider both the possibilities. You getting it? You got to consider both the possibilities. So I'll do one thing. Case 1 and case 2. Let us take both the cases. Right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 positions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 positions. In case 2 again, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 positions and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 positions. So in case 1, I will take A in the extreme position, D comes here. In case 2, I will take A here and then D comes here. So this part of the question has been considered. Statement has been considered. Now, P faces an immediate neighbor of D. P faces an immediate neighbor of D. Try to use this point. Now, immediate neighbor of D. If you look at case 1, who are the neighbors of D? These 2 positions are the neighbors of D. P faces an immediate neighbor of D. See, we know that P is going to come in the top row, in the first row. So P faces an immediate neighbor of D means what? P can either come here, facing the neighbor of D, or P can come here. So P and P dash, these are the 2 possible positions of P. Again, ideally you are supposed to take one more case here, take P in one place and in the other place in the other case. But let's not do that for now. We know that P can either come in this position or in this position because P has to face a neighbor of D. Apply the same point in case 2. P faces the immediate neighbor of D. Now the only immediate neighbor of D is this person, and P has to face that person. So P has to come here. There is no other choice. So done. With respect to case 2, it is complete. Case 1 has got 2 possibilities. Look at the next point. R sits second to the right of P. R sits second to the right of P. Now right of P. P is the person who is facing south. He's in the first row, right? Facing south. And for a person who is facing south, right should be taken towards left. So R is second to the right of P. R is second to the right of P. Look at case 2 first. Case 2. Second to the right of P. Second to the right of P meaning what? Right of P is towards our left, right? This side. This side. So R is second to the right of P. First and second, R has to come here. But does this place exist? No. Which means this is wrong. This arrangement is wrong. So case 2 is eliminated. Now go back to case 1. Case 1 had 2 possible positions of P. Now if you take P in this position, R will go out of the arrangement again. R is second to the right of P. Right of P is this side. So R cannot come here. I mean, it is out of scope, right? So P cannot come in this position, clearly. So let's clear that. P cannot come there. If P cannot come in that position, the only possibility is P has to come here, in this position that we have discussed. So P comes here. And if P comes here, R is second to the right of P. First and second, R comes here. Done. So now we are left with only one case, right? And last point, E sits to the immediate right of D. E sits to the immediate right of D. What is right of D? Our right. See, right of D. D is facing north. So right of D is our right. Immediate right of D. Immediate right of D is this position. So E is on the immediate right of D. Now the point to be noted is, while statement 1 has not helped us in completing the arrangement, we have achieved what we wanted to. What did we want to achieve? Who amongst the following are sitting exactly in the middle of the row? Who are the 2 persons sitting exactly in the middle of the row? P and E. So can I say statement 1 alone is sufficient? Yes. Using the data given in statement 1, I have been able to find that P and E are the 2 guys sitting in the middle of these 2 rows. So I can say 1 alone is sufficient. 1 alone is sufficient. Now we have to go for 2 alone. And remember, when you go for 2 alone, you will forget about the data given in statement 1. Now look at the data given in statement 2. Only one person sits between Q and S, and B and E are immediate neighbors. Now, without even putting it on paper or without even trying to do arrangement, you know that this will not help us. This will not lead us anywhere, right? Let me just show it to you, right? I'll just clear this part because we already discussed this with respect to statement 1. Let's look at statement 2. Statement 2 has given us some data. What is the data? There's only one person between Q and S. See, with respect to statement 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 positions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 positions. So only one person sits between Q and S. Both Q and S will come in the top row, right? Now only one person sits between Q and S. There are 2 ways of doing it. We can say Q dash S or S dash Q. Yes or no? Now there are multiple possibilities. It can be Q dash S or S dash Q. Then it can be Q dash S or S dash Q. Or it can be Q dash S or S dash Q. You're getting 6 possibilities in the first row itself. Then the next point is B and E are immediate neighbors. B and E are immediate neighbors again means what? It can be BE together or EB together. I mean, both orders are possible. So it can be B and E or E and B. It can be B and E or E and B. B and E or E and B. And B and E or E and B. 8 possibilities here. Will that help us find out who's sitting in the middle of the row? No. There are multiple possibilities and there's no other data given to us. So clearly 2 alone is not going to be sufficient. So if you recall the flow that we discussed, we have checked statement 1 alone and statement 2 alone. We found that statement 1 alone gives us the answer, but 2 alone does not give the answer. So we can stop here because we have got the answer. We have got the answer using statement 1 alone. So you should say statement 1 alone is sufficient to answer the question. Statement 2 by itself is not sufficient to answer the question. So option 4 is going to be a final answer to this question. All right. So I think we're done with that question. Now, don't go by the length of the solution or length of the explanation. I mean, I was trying to explain that in detail, right? I mean, we've also discussed the basics of data sufficiency, right? What is the step-by-step process there? We have discussed about the direction sense. We have discussed a little bit about how linear arrangement should be done and all that. But when you go for the exam, you know all these things already. All you do is quickly try it out. So I think it wouldn't take more than a minute for us to figure out that 1 alone is sufficient. See, statement 2 is very easy to rule out, eliminate, right? Statement 2 will not give the answer. Only statement 1, if you do carefully, you will find that yes, it is giving the answer, right? Remember, I think 2 important points when it comes to data sufficiency based questions. Point number 1 is like I've already mentioned, right? When you look at statement 1, only consider the data given statement 1. Do not take the data given in statement. More importantly, when you look at statement 2, only take the data given statement 2, but don't take the data given statement 1. Because you are checking if independently these statements can give you the answer. And the problem is, this becomes a, it's a pronounced issue when you are checking statement 2. Because when you're checking statement 2, you have already done something in statement 1, right? That is there in your mind, and you end up using that most of the times. So you have to be very careful when you're checking the statements independently. It is not a big problem when you are checking statement 1, because when you're checking statement 1, you have not read statement 2 already. You don't know what is given there. But when you're checking statement 2, you know what was given in statement 1. This is one major issue that most of us have, right? So that's point number 1 you have to be very careful about. And point number 2, I think, is that when you are solving questions from data sufficiency, go for the combination of statements. Go for the combination of statement 1 and statement 2 if and only if independently the statements fail to give you the answer. Are you able to follow? You will combine the data given in both the statements only if statement 1 alone is not sufficient and statement 2 alone is also not sufficient. If either of these statements is giving you the answer, or any one of the statements is giving you the answer, then you're done. See, our whole objective here is to find out how can I get the answer. If I can get using only one alone, I'm fine. I don't have to go for combination. If I can get using 2 alone, good again. Don't have to go for combination. If either of the statement can give you the answer, fine. Don't go for combination. Go for combination only when 1 says I am helpless, 2 says I am helpless. Then you will say, boss, let's combine the 2 and check if you can do something. That flow has to be absolutely clear. I think that is 90% of data sufficiency solution, right? If you understand these 2 points. And I think 10% is about the concept there. Like, for example, see, data sufficiency is not a topic by itself. It is a different way of asking the question. We can get questions on linear arrangement, we can get questions on circular arrangement, we can get questions on blood relation. Or if you look at quantitative aptitude, any topic from quantitative aptitude can be asked in terms of data sufficiency. Profit and loss can be asked, simple and compound interest can be asked. We can get questions on time and work, time and distance, number systems, or just name a topic: partnership, ages, permutations and combinations, probability, right? Ratio and proportions, percentages, averages. Anything can be asked in data sufficiency. So, assuming that you know all the concepts already, there's nothing to be prepared, especially for data sufficiency, except the way you have to deal with these questions. Of course, you've got to practice a few questions, but I'm sure all of you have done enough of that and you're fully geared up. If not, do it now, right? Practice a few questions. Well, I think the time is up. We are close to 7 o'clock, and I don't think we'll be able to take up more questions, but don't worry. I mean, we have like what? It is only this afternoon I was checking. We have got about 1,022 videos for all the concepts of quantitative aptitude, reasoning, English language, general awareness in banking, computers and marketing in our online programs for bank exam preparation, right? So you can explore about our programs. Like these things have already been covered through videos, and you can watch those videos anytime you want, right? You don't have to wait for a live session or a doubts clarification session to get your doubts clarified, right? I mean, those things have already been covered through all these 1,022 videos we have. In fact, we've recently updated all our banking and general awareness content, so I'm sure those who have enrolled from the program would enjoy it, and others also can explore this, right? So if you wish to know more about our programs, please visit TalentSprint.com. By the way, I've been told by our team that there's a special offer going on, which I was not aware of, and that ends tonight, 31st May, right? I think it ends tonight. So if you want to grab that special 40% off deal, make sure that you visit our website, TalentSprint.com, right? And yeah, I think irrespective of whether you join the program or not, I would say that practice is the key to success in this banking sense, right? So whether you join TalentSprint or elsewhere, keep practicing, because the more you practice, the easier it gets, right? And you got to know the best of shortcuts, the smart methods, and the techniques to answer questions, right? So learn all the right things, learn the best of techniques, and practice, right? The more you practice, the easier it gets. I mean, like they say, right? Practice makes a man perfect. I think it's not about getting perfect, but yeah, practicing more will reduce your imperfections, right? You'll get closer to doing it faster and more accurately, right? So keep that in mind, right? Of course, for those who are going to appear for the SBI PO main exam, I would not suggest too much of practice now, because when you're 2 days or 3 days away from your exam, or when your exam is just 2 or 3 days away, you should not be preparing too much in my view. I mean, this is like a little controversial. I mean, at least it sounds controversial, but then I think the idea is, these competitive exams, like I always say, it's not about your knowledge. It's about your state of mind, how you behave in those 3 hours of your exam duration, right? Or in that limited 1 hour of time when you go for preliminary examination, right? So, I mean, I'm sure all of you know that it's not the most intelligent fellow who cracks this exam. I mean, I'm not saying that he cannot crack the exam, but you don't have to be the most intelligent person in the classroom to crack this exam, right? You have to show a right set of behavior, right behavior, and you must be in the right frame of mind to give your best, right? So I think keeping yourself calm and composed is the key to improve your chances of selection, and that can happen only when you're relaxed, right? If you start thinking too much about cutoff, about the competition, about what type of questions will come, puzzles, complex puzzles, what will I do? This fellow's got the answer, I'm not getting the answer, he's preparing so much, I'm not prepared so much. General awareness, I did not do anything, what will I do in the next 3 days? If these kind of questions keep lingering in mind, it will only add to your nervousness. So forget about everything. If you have not prepared enough, if you have not prepared well so far, it's your mistake. You should have done that. So don't panic now, right? Keep it cool, I mean, relax. What will happen? And this again is a little controversial, I would say, but go with the mindset that if I don't crack, I have one more exam coming up. I mean, like, what is that? That sometimes, makes it easier for you to attempt, right? When you know that you don't really need it, you perform better. So, I mean, I don't say that give up immediately now itself, but yeah, think that, okay, I'll lose the opportunity, but I am preparing well. See, till you are preparing to your fullest of efforts with your full dedication, you should not be worried about the results, right? Like they say, I mean, I'm sure also you know, karma karte jao, phal ki chinta na karo. So, if you have done your part, then you should be happy, right? You should come out of the examination hall and say that, boss, I have done my best. Right? I don't care whether I qualify or not. I will try harder next time, definitely, but I have done my best. That attitude will definitely add to your confidence. I mean, if you go with that state of mind, and that confidence will help you do better, right? So I think that's the only suggestion I have for you. Next 2-3 days, practice. Maybe take a mock exam every day, analyze your performance, analyze how you performed, and maybe do a little bit of revision. But don't burn the midnight oil now, right? The time is gone. You should relax now, right? Have a good sleep before the examination. Do something that you enjoy, other than preparation and practice, right? I mean, involve in a hobby of yours. Surround yourself with positive things. Be positive. Right? Be positive. Don't think too much about this cutoff thing. Is like the one thing that actually cuts me off. I mean, at least it cuts me off. Don't worry about the cutoffs. What will be the expected cutoff? I don't know. Let me tell you, nobody knows. Right? If somebody is saying that I'll tell you the expected cutoff, well, expected is something. It's not defined. Right? I mean, expected is what expected. It may happen, may not happen. Right? Cutoff is not in our control. What is in our control is our mind. So try to keep that in control, right? What is in your control is your preparation. So you have done that well so far. Just go and perform. Give your best. Don't worry about the cutoffs. So, I mean, that's one thing that annoys me, but doesn't matter. You should not get nervous because of that, right? I think, yeah, I would like to close the session with the point that जो अब तक करना था आपने कर लिया, right? You have done your best. Now go and give your best shot in the examination, right? And for that, you have to be calm and composed. So for all those who are appearing for the SBI PO main examination, I would say relax. You'll do well. I'm sure you'll do well, right? For those who have not been able to crack the preliminary examination but still are preparing for other exams, you guys got to practice, right? What are you doing, right? Practice more, because the more you practice, the easier it gets. On that note, let me close it here. I would like to thank you all once again for joining us in this session. Please join us in the next session again, which is next Wednesday at 6 p.m. Details of which will be made available on our YouTube channel, right? Until then, take very good care of yourselves and all the very best for your SBI PO main exam. Don't forget that there's a special offer that's going on TalentSprint.com, which ends tonight. So just see if you'd like to explore that, right? All the very best. See you in the next session. Take care.